In this video, we're going to be implementing MongoDB replication among three instances on your server. Now, instance is probably a new word for you. We know when we have a database, it's a single collection of, collections and files and users and indexes and everything that composes a database. When we log into an instance and you type DBS, show DBS, it shows you a list of databases running under that instance. An instance is essentially a running database system. So an instance can include multiple databases. Now, in order to simulate having three different servers talk to each other, what we're going to do is run three different instances of MongoDB on your Mac and have each one listen on a different port. And I'll try to explain this in more detail as we go. So start off by shutting down any unused applications, meaning programs, including your VirtualBox server. Make sure that is down. And the reason is we're going to have to eat up a lot of memory, and we want this to run fairly quickly. So once you've done that, go ahead and download the latest version of MongoDB and put it to your desktop. So we want to make sure, well, this is the current link. It may change, but what I want you to do is go down and make sure we go to community server. You do not want enterprise. Obviously make sure it's Mac OS and hit download, and you don't have to fill this out. It'll take just a moment, but it will go ahead and download. It's about 100 meg. And here's what I'd really like you to do. Go to your download directory, grab that. Let's rename it. Well, first of all, let's uncompress it. Okay. I'm going to delete the original. And instead of having all of this, I'm just going to rename it to MongoDB and lay it right over here. Now, once that's done, let's do this. Open it up. Go into the bin directory. And we're going to do everything inside of this folder. Normally this would be obviously on different parts of your system because it would be a permanent install. For now we're going to keep things simple. But one thing you probably notice is in the bin directory, well, there's Mongo, which is what we typed to access MongoDB. MongoD is actually the database we connected to. If you recall when we said sudo service restart MongoD or MongoD restart, that's the database. And oh well, here's Mongo dump and Mongo export and Mongo files and import and a bunch of other ones. There's Mongo restore. So go ahead in here and create a new folder, and we're going to call it data. And inside of data, I want to go ahead and create three folders, one called RS1, RS2, and a third one called RS3. Now we're going to have to do some permission changes. I installed this program over here called GoToShell. You can install this from the App Store. It is free, but this little program helps me navigate between Terminal and Finder. Because right now I'm in the bin directory. If I click on this, it'll open up Finder, Terminal, but I'm already in that directory. If you don't have this installed, you can pause the video and install it, or you do not have to install it. Just go ahead and open up a terminal window and CD to your desktop MongoDB bin directory. You have to be in this directory. Okay, next thing we need to do is, for the sake of simplicity, we need to do a change mode on there. So this is going to change the permissions on that directory, so we don't really want to deal with permissions right now. So it's sudo service, sudo change mode -R for recursive, 777 data. And I'll put my password in. And we're done. If I do an ls-l here, we see that data has all that next to it, meaning read, write, execute, read, write, execute, and read, write, execute. Oh, sorry. Over here I also had put the manual commands to create the directories, but I showed you in the video a moment ago just how to do it through Finder. Either one is fine. As long as they're created, we're good. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side, but I'm going to open up all of these directories. This is important. I'm going to start Mongo manually. And here's what I'm going to do. The command's /mongod. So we're running this file here, mongod. You have to be in the same directory. So you have to be in MongoDB bin. We're saying ---- replica set. We're telling it it's going to be part of a replication set. I'm going to call it M101. I'm going to say the DB path is data RS1. Again, RS1, RS2, RS3 for RS1, RS2, and RS3. Now I'm going to give them 3 different ports. You need to make sure your virtual server is off, otherwise there's going to be a port conflict. But we're going to have one run on 27017, next one's 18 and 19. Next, small files means just start lean. Don't go ahead and grow out of control because you're the only thing running on this server. It means basically just start with low memory and be lean, be efficient. Fork means once this statement runs, come back. Don't show me everything that's going on. If you recall, when you run things in C or C#, you can go ahead and just watch the log and everything keeps going, or you can go ahead and have it actual terminate and the program ends and comes back to you. Well, it's going to kick off the process and come back to us. And then the log path is where it's going to write its log. So I'm going to go ahead and run the first one. What I want to do is look over here and look at RS1, because when I start running, I'm going to paste it and hit enter. See all these files up here? This means MongoDB is running, because I said go ahead and start up and use data RS1 for your database path, meaning put your files there. So look in RS1, all of these files just got created by starting this database, this instance. Again, an instance is a running version of a database management system, which is what MongoDB is. Okay, next one. Again, copy and paste. And now what we see is, if I shrink RS1, there's all the files in RS2. And if I run the third one here, now we have the same thing for RS3. We also have 3 log files here. So what we did was we started Mongo 3 times, but because we gave it 3 different ports, it's running and listening on 3 different ports. They don't know about each other yet. They don't know that each other is running. I want to show you another trick. If I go in here and I run Activity Monitor, and then I click on CPU, over here it says Process. These are all the programs running on your system. So I have stuff from Adobe, and I have stuff Android, and if I scroll down, Citrix, let's see what else I got in here. Evernote I use a lot. GitHub, everyone's familiar with Chrome. These are all the programs running on my Mac. If I go over here and I search for Mongo, you'll see there's 3 MongoDs. The reason is I started up Mongo 3 times. There's the 3 instances, the 3 running databases ready to do work. So I'm going to put this down here for a moment. I'm done with this for now. We have our 3 instances. So how about we go ahead and start talking to the instances. I'm going to go over here and do /Mongo. And let's make this a lot larger. We can see here that, let's tell you what, let's rearrange this. I don't need that no more. We saw what we normally expect, a whole bunch of warnings. Those can be ignored for the moment. And we get our terminal. So if I go in here and I say show DBS, oh, listing database has failed. Well, no master and no slave. The reason why we're getting this is when I started it, I made it part of a replica set. So the first thing I need to do is go over to here and copy this. Now, when we ran /Mongo, because we didn't give it a port number to connect to, it connected to the default port. So right now we're connected to this, again, this first one. So first copy this. And all we did was create a variable called config. We didn't really talk to the database, but we said the ID of M101, which by the way is the replica set name here, is composed of these members, and I wrote localhost and put the 3 different ports on there. Now, if I run this line, rs initiate, remember till now all our commands started with db dot because they were database commands. Now that we're dealing with replica sets, rs stands for replica set command. If we're going to say replica set dot initiate and pass it the config file. And our prompt changes. It right now says secondary, but if I hit enter and we wait a few seconds, eventually this will say primary, because what we did was we passed it a config file, said all 3 servers are going to be the joined into this replica set, and the first one should be the primary. There we go. So we know I'm logged into the primary. The other 2 are going to be called secondaries. So what does that really mean? Well, let's go ahead and open up another window, and let's open it up. Let's see here. We need to go back to MongoDB, go into the bin directory, and I'm going to open up 2 more windows. One I'm going to put over here, and one I'm going to put over below it. Okay. Now over here, in my second window, I'm going to connect to Mongo, but this time I'm going to give it a port. Now, we're already connected to 27017 through this port. So let's, in the second window, run the second command. And it looks pretty much the same warnings as last time. The difference is here it says primary, here it says secondary. Let's run the third one. And again, this one says secondary. There are no tertiaries. You're either primary or you're secondary. There are no thirds. Everyone's second. So now we have, what was that? There we go. Now we have 3 windows. We all started in the bin directory. One of them we connected to port 27017. That's the primary. This one was connected to 27018, the port number, secondary, and 27019, which is the third one. So we have 3 different connections. These are 3 different databases, 3 different database systems. Again, if we look here, we have 3 different instances of Mongo being connected by 3 different Mongo clients. Okay. Now here's the thing. There's one more we need to do. I need to run this command on the 2 seconds. And the reason is these 2 seconds are currently in read, they're locked mode, meaning we can't even read from them. By running this command, what that means is these now become read-only. Okay, what does this mean and why did we go through all this? And the setup really wasn't too bad, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to my primary and type use test. And then I'm going to say let's insert into users. So test database, users collection, Peter Parker with an ID of 1. Okay, so now I should be able to do show DBS, and there is our test database. And I should be able to say show collections, and there's users. And if I do a db.users.find.pretty, there's Peter Parker. Great. Again, why did we go through all this configuration? Because in the background, by doing nothing different, if I go to secondary and say use test, show collections, and there's users, and I say db.users.find, there's Peter Parker. And if I go to the other secondary, use test, show collections, db.users.find. So instantly, anytime I do an insert into the primary or an update into the primary, that data immediately flows to both secondaries. So it will always go ahead and get that data. Now, we can go through, let's see right here, and we can actually import some data. So we're going to have to go ahead and run the Mongo import. We just need that places and stocks files. And I'm going to pause this just for one moment and come back with those files, and we'll go through the import. Okay, so now you should have downloaded the zip file attached to this assignment. And when you unzip it, there's a places.js and a stocks.json file. And you need to copy both of them into the bin directory. And once you are there, we need one more terminal window. And now we get to run our commands. Okay, so we have one window in our bin directory with the places and stocks files. And then we have three other windows, one to the primary through Mongo, and then the other two to the secondary, also through Mongo. So here's what we do. We're going to go do a Mongo import into the test database, places collection, and then we're going to give it the file of places.js. Again, whether it's JS or JSON, they're both JSON files. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say db.places.find.count. And then I'm not going to run it. I'm going to copy that and paste it here and here. Now watch me do this first before you attempt it. I'm going to go ahead and run this command and then run over to this window and see how many, just to show you the speed, how quickly it imported, how many records, and then jump to the other two to make sure the replications worked. So ready, import 49 documents, 49 documents, 49 documents. So within that short time it inserted 49 documents, it went to the primary database and that automatically replicated it to these other two databases. And again, if these were on actual separate machines, there would be some network latency, meaning network delays, but for the most part it is extremely quick. So let's do it with a big file now. If you notice, that was places was rather a small file. Here's a much bigger file of stocks. So we're going to import into the stocks collection. So instead of doing places, I'm going to say stocks. And let's do the import. Go. Again, as quick as I could hit the button, 6,700 records were imported and then replicated to two other servers. So these two servers, these two running instances of Mongo, will always be identical with the primary. And there are some settings you can put in there to perhaps put in delays. There are ways of speeding this up, but it also sacrifices consistency, like maybe this will be a few seconds behind the primary. Okay, once you've imported it all, we still need to shut everything down. So in all of these machines, I need you to type exit, shut down the window, exit, and exit. Now, the issue here is those three instances here we started are still running in the background, even though there are no terminals accessing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to open up the activity monitor. And we can see here are the three of them. We need to right click on each one, well not right click, click on it and then click on the little X here and hit quit on all of them. And that'll send the shutdown signal to each of these to shut down normally. Okay, now that they're all gone, the databases are actually shut down. Now after this course, you can go ahead and delete this MongoDB directory, and we have all our files in here. Like I said, there was replica set 1, 2, and 3 was all inside of here. So we didn't actually install MongoDB to your system as if you would do through like apt-get or maybe brew or something like that. We just installed the binaries and ran it. If you do want to install MongoDB permanently on your Mac, there is a tutorial you can Google for that gives you the the line to auto set up, so it starts as a service, meaning anytime you start your machine, it will auto start Mungo. Now on your Ubuntu boxes, that's how it was installed. So every time we start up the box, we don't have to start Mungo. For the simplicity of just doing this once, I wanted to go ahead and just use these binary files and run them once, and then we can go ahead and deinstall them. So that concludes the replication examples.